different numbers. So when we look at something like question 1, the only difference is it might be going up and down instead of left to right. When we look at question number 1, we want to find our domain and range of this graph. Now, when we look at this, and I'll put it up here so we can see, we want to make sure we count units. So it looks like this right here is about 2 units over. So I'm going to label that about 2. And this is at 5. So my graph will look like this. It doesn't ask, but why is this not a function? This is our practice exam here. Why is this one not a function? Did someone tell me why it's not a function? Yeah, it fails the vertical line test, right? Yep, because if I draw a vertical line here, it crosses over itself. Now let's think about our domain first. Domain, remember, is the values of x. Now, where is this going at on the x-axis? This is our x-axis here. And when I look at this, where is it starting at on the x-axis? On the x-axis down below, it looks like it's starting at about what? 2. Okay, and where is it going? It's going, yep, over to positive infinity. So what would my domain look like? Domain is the values of x, and that's 2 to positive infinity. Is everyone okay with that? So you figure out where it starts at on the x-axis. If it goes to the right, it's positive infinity. If it would have went back to the left, it would be what? Negative infinity. So do not miss this question. What about the range? Okay, the range is the up and down components. Let's see what happens here. If I start right here, what's happening? As I follow this, I'm going to the right, and I'm also doing what? Going up. And when I go up, that means I go up to positive infinity. Now, if I do the other half of this, what's happening with it? I'm going up, and I'm going down to negative infinity. So what would my range, the up and down part, be? Negative to positive infinity. Is everyone all right with how I got the domain and the range on that one? Easy, easy question. I don't want you to miss that question. The one in your exam is going to look very, very similar. It's just moved over or moved up and down a bit. Question 3. Question 3, again, is another very simple question. I do not want you to miss it. It looks intimidating because it has words in it, but it is really not. All they want you to do is find the slope. So when I look at this, the last part here says find the average rate of change in number of farms. Per means divide year. So if I look at this as a fraction, that's going to be your slope. Average rate of change is your slope. And your slope is going to be the farms over years. Okay, because it says farms per year. Now, what do we have as our ordered pairs? Okay, when we look at this, and this is our slope. Remember, our slope is y over x. So when we look at this, our ordered pairs are going to be farms and the year. So let's make our ordered pair so we can fill in our formula. So what do our ordered pairs look like? 119,000 farms in 1997. 76,000 farms in 2005. Oh, wait, did I put... Okay, so farm should... Oh, sorry, I wrote the order pairs backwards. Wasn't very careful here. Remember, Y is on top, Y is farm. So X is first. Sorry about that. So that's going to be 1997. 119,000. Sorry about that. Just wasn't careful there. Because X goes with the years. I thought something wasn't looking right. And then in 2005, we had only 76,000 farms. Now, should our slope be positive or negative? Is the number of farms over time going up or going down? Down. So our answer should be negative. So we know just by looking at it, our answer is going to be negative. What's our formula for our slope? y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. x1, y1, x2, y2. And now fill it in and simplify it down, and we'll have our answer. A lot of these questions are just simply one-step things. There's not a lot to this one. It's just a matter of making sure that you have the ordered pairs, which are going to be farm, year. That's the way it goes. Farms, year. Your question on your exam is going to be very, very similar. Different numbers is all. Now we work it out. So we've got 119,000 minus your 76,000. That's a difference of 43,000. And 1997 minus 2005, that's negative 8, right? And when we divide, we get a negative answer, which we should, because our slope should be negative. And we are losing 5,375 farms per year. So that means most years we're going to lose about, give or take, 5,000 farms. Some years might have more, some years might have less. But your question on your exam is going to be very, very similar. Use the ordered pair formula, farms and year. Use your slope formula, work it out. That's it. Question 4. Question 4 is a question that is very, very simple, but students make a mistake with this one. I see it happen every semester. There is not much to it, but students make mistakes, and it is due to the signs. When we plug in a number for the x, we use parentheses so we don't get confused with the signs. So when I plug in that 2, I'm going to bring down the negative. I'm going to plug the 2 in for the x, and I'm going to put a parentheses around it. So every time I plug in that 2, I'm going to use a set of parentheses. Now, when we work this out, be very, very careful. Where is that negative located at? In front. So does it become positive? No. Why not? It's in front. All we do is drag it down. The 2 inside gets squared, and positive 2 squared is a 4, and the negative, because it's out in front, gets dragged down. But a lot of times, students make a mistake, and they think it's inside, and they make that a positive 4. Do not make that mistake. The negative is out in front, bring it down. Now, what about the next 2 pieces here? Negative 5 times 2 is a negative 10. And then we've got a plus 3, and we combine all of this together. And what do we end up with? Looks like we end up with negative 11, don't we? Is everyone okay with how that one works? That is actually one of the most commonly missed questions, and the mistake happens right here. So don't miss a bunch of points because of that negative. Just bring it down. It's in front, drop it down. Whenever you plug in a value, put parentheses around it. It's just students sometimes get in a hurry and they forget the simple things. Question 6. Right, so question 6. We want to come up with our line equation. There's almost nothing to do. How do we work with this one? We want a horizontal line. So we don't have to use point slope. We don't have to use any of that. We want a horizontal line. Now, you can either look at it and remember that a horizontal line is a y line, right? Or you can graph it. I think it's easier to just plot the point, graph it, so you can see what it is, why it's a y line. So let's plot our point. -4, +1. -4, +1 is right here. We want it to be a horizontal line. And there it is. Now, what would the equation of this line be? Remember, if it's a diagonal line, it's x and y. Okay? Horizontal lines, what axis does it cross? It crosses the y-axis, so it's a y line. Vertical lines would be up and down, and they cross the x-axis. So this is a horizontal line. What axis does it cross? The y-axis. Where does it cross it at? Y equaling what now? Y equaling 1. It's 1 unit up. So that would be your answer for both standard and slope-intercept is simply y equals 1. That's all you need to do. It is a horizontal line, which means it is a y line. Question 7. What would question 7 be? Okay. Question 7. What is this one? This one is a vertical line, right? Vertical lines are x lines. What's the x component of this ordered pair? 2. So what would this one be? This one in standard form would be x equals 2, and you can't write it in slope-intercept because it doesn't have a y. So all you would need to write is simply x equals 2. If you want to put down that it doesn't go into slope-intercept form, that's fine. But as long as you just write down x equals 2, that's all I really care about, is making sure that you understand that vertical lines are x lines because they cross the x-axis. Horizontal lines are y lines because they cross the y-axis. Question 10. No, sorry, we'll do 8 first. So 8's first. 8 and 10 are the only two questions that take a while to go through. All the others are mostly concepts. But 8 and 10 take a while to go through. On these, you can use your flowcharts. Now, we want it to be perpendicular. We've got a point, we've got a slope. Point and a line equation. So what do we need? Well, we need to somehow get a slope. So we have a point and a line equation. So we go back to our flow chart, which I think I've got it around here somewhere. If not, I'm sure you've got one. You can use it on your exam. What do? Okay, you have a point and you have a slope, point and a line equation. So that'll be that third page. So the first thing we do is we find the slope of the line. Well, this one has already been solved for you. So we don't really have to do a lot because it's been solved for y. So the first step is just identifying that slope, which is 1/3. Now we want the perpendicular slope. So the slope we're going to be using is not 1/3. What is the slope we're going to be using? Can someone tell me? Not 3, -3. Why? Because we have to flip it over and change our sign. You have to do both. Now we can finish it because all roads lead back to point slope. And that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly because you you've seen how it's worked out. It's just algebra from here. So just be careful with your signs, but you've already got it worked out if you want to look at that answer key. So plug your values in. So that's going to be y minus a minus 8. Watch out for double negatives. Minus 3 times x minus and minus 3. Double negatives make that positive. Double negatives make that positive. So that's y plus 8 equals, now distributing through, negative 3x. Looks like sorry about that, minus 9 there. Watch your signs. Be very, very careful with those. We'll go ahead and get it in slope-intercept form first. Doesn't matter which one we do first. We've got to get it in both. And that is then y equals a minus 3x minus 17. And that should be in slope-intercept. How do we get it in standard? Very simple. That's slope-intercept. To get it in standard, all we have to do is move that 3x over. So in standard, it looks like it's going to be 3x plus y equals a minus 17. And I know I worked that one out very quickly, but that should not be where you have the trouble. It shouldn't be so much in the algebra. It should be in what do I do? And make sure that you're very careful with your slope. See how I flipped it over and I changed my sign. So that was question 8. Next, we're going to look at question 9 as well. So 8 we just did. 9 and 10 are the two difficult ones we've got left. So we'll do question 9 next. Very, very similar again. This one, though, has less steps because we've got minus 9, positive 6, slope of negative 5. Okay, well, what's this one? What do we have? Point and a slope. Okay, first page of our flow chart. It has the fewest number of steps. So what do? We have a point, we have a slope. First thing, we don't have to find the slope. We just simply use point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug your values in, x1, y1. So that's y minus 6 equals minus 5 times x, watch your signs, minus a minus 9. Double negative makes that positive, distribute through. So y minus 6 equals a minus 5x minus 45. Go ahead and get it in slope-intercept, so add that 6 over. And now we've got y equals a minus 5x minus, looks like, 39. And then we also want to get that in standard form. Let's make sure I didn't make a sign error there because I worked it so quickly. Yep, everything looks right. That's in slope-intercept. How do we get it in standard form? We don't even have to do any real work. And I try to pick easier questions, so we just move it over. So that would be 5x plus y equals a minus 39. Right? Not much to do on that. And I did try to pick questions that don't have complicated fractions. They'll be just like this. All of it is more concepts than difficult questions with fractions. Okay, just a few more. So question 10 is parallel. Now, what do we do with parallel? Do we have to change our slope at all? No. Okay, so it's going to stay the same. So we've got this point 2, 2. And I think this is the most difficult question, algebraically in time, on your exam will be this one. And you want it to be parallel to 5x plus 6y equals a negative 32. We have a point and we have a line equation. So that means we're going back to page 3 of your flow chart, right? Page 3. Point and line equation. What do? Solve for y. So that's what we have to do first, is simply solve it for y. So 6y equals a minus 5x minus 32. And we divide by our 6. And now we have y equals a minus 5/6 x minus 32/6. And you could reduce that down if you wanted, right? You could reduce this down to be what? Let's see, 16 over 3 if you want. I'll leave it as it is because we don't care, because all we care about is what? Is the slope, which is that minus 5/6. Okay. And I know I'm working through it quickly, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time to do our exam. And you can look and see how I worked it out when we take a short 5-minute break before we start our exam. So you can go online and look in Canvas and see how I worked out. If you want to see all the other steps and look at it again. Hopefully you did that before. Hopefully you've already kind of seen the steps. But we now have this point 2, 2. And we have a slope of minus 5/6. We're going to use point slope. And that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, x1, y1, and we fill it in. So no double negatives to worry about. So we have y minus 2 equals minus 5/6 times x minus 2, it looks like. And we're going to reduce that fraction down when we distribute through. And that's going to be y minus 2 equals, we'll reduce this down a bit here, minus 5/6 x. Okay, negative and negative makes that positive. If you struggle with fractions, write it over the side. And you can see you can cancel there. Okay, that's going to make that a minus 1 and a 3. And so that would be then 5/3. Negative, negative makes it positive. You could have left it as 10/6, same thing. We want to go ahead and clear those fractions, so we'll multiply everything by a 6. That's going to make it easy to work with. And that is 6y minus 12 equals minus 5x. And 6 divided by 3 is 2, times 5 makes it a 10. We'll add that 12 over. And 6y equals a minus 5x plus 22. Okay. And I know I'm going through it pretty quickly, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our exam. Divide by our 6, and we've got it in slope-intercept. So y equals, now you do want to reduce, so minus 5/6 x. And 22 over 6 will reduce down to be 11/3. How do we get it in standard form? Well, a little bit more work because we got fractions. We have to clear them out. So multiply it all by 6 again. And that leaves you with 6y equals minus 5x. 6 divided by 3 is 2, times 11 makes it 22. Move your 5x over, and you're done. Okay, and that's it. I know I worked through that one quickly, but that, I think, is the only question that takes a long time. When I picked questions out for your exam, I tried to pick more concept-oriented questions rather than ones that are a whole lot of calculations. That's the only one that's really calculational based. Most of the others are going to be simply, do you understand how to graph a line? Things like that. A couple more questions. We'll look at 14 next. We've got 3 more. Question 14. And we did one very, very similar to this earlier this morning when we looked at 2, 4. So we want to graph this. Now, when we graph this inequality, we're going to have to shade. And when I look at it, remember, greater than, less than, those get a dotted line. When I grade your exam, all your questions are worth 4 points apiece. So if you used a solid line instead of a dotted line and did everything else correct, you'd probably get 3 out of 4. If you graph it but don't shade it, you'll probably get 2 out of 4. So make sure you get all the components here. So we know it has to be a dotted line. Now what do? We solve it for y. So 2x plus 5y equals a negative 5. We move that 2x over. So 5y equals now a minus 2x minus 5. We divide by our 5. And y equals minus 2/5 x minus 1. So your slope is a minus 2/5, and your y-intercept is 0, negative 1. And again, I know I went through that one pretty quickly, but what do we have to now do? We have to graph it, right? And what do we know? Dotted line, right? Why dotted line? Because of this inequality here. If it has an equal bar underneath, solid. This one does not, so it is dotted line. And that's 1 point of the question right there. Quarter of the question is making sure that you can use a dotted line. Where do we start at? Okay, make sure we did everything right here. Make sure all the signs are correct. Yep, everything looks right. We start down here at 0, negative 1. And my slope is a negative 2/5, so we go down 2. And we go over 5. So down 1, 2. And then we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So down 2 units, over 5 units. We make our second dot. Connect them together with a dotted line. What do we now do? Shade. What do we do to shade? Check 0, 0. And it's easy to check 0, 0 because back in the original, the x's and the y's are on the left. So that's an automatic 0 on the left. And is 0 bigger than negative 5? Yes, it is. 0 is bigger than negative 5. So that means this half up here would be true. 0, 0 is above the line. So where do we shade? Shade up here. That's it. So when I look at this, when I go to grade your exam, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the fact that it is a dotted line. That's 1 point out of the 4 right there. Make sure you got a dotted line. Make sure it goes down from left to right. If it goes up, you'll lose a point or 2. Make sure it goes down from left to right. Make sure it starts down about 1 unit. Not down 5, about 1. You get full credit there. And then make sure that you shade above, not below. And if you did it all but didn't shade, you'd get 2 out of the 4 points. So you get half credit. Very important, though, that you shade so you get full credit. But I do give you half credit, but that's kind of how I grade it. 1 point for the solid or dotted line. Half the question is going to be, does the line look correct? The other half is going to be, did you shade correctly? 17 and 20 are the last two. 17 is another graphing one. We don't have to shade this one, though. Okay, so on these, you can find the intercepts if you want. If you wanted to solve for y and graph it that way, that's all right too. So you can either find the intercepts, like the directions say, or you can just solve it for y and graph it. I don't care. If you want to get the intercepts and do it that way, you can. As long as the graph looks correct, you'll get the full points. That's mostly what I'm looking for, is make sure the graph is correct. Because if the graph is correct, then your intercepts are right. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve this for y. So move those two x's over. The directions want you to find the intercepts, and you can do that, like I did when I worked it out on the practice one. But if you want to just solve it for y and graph it this way, I'll still give you full credit. So divide everything by 5 and then reduce. So y equals now a minus 2/5 x, and 10 over 5 is a 2. Slope is minus 2/5, and your y-intercept is going to be 0.2. Bless you. And again, if you want to go through the process and find the x and the y-intercept both, that's fine. You can do that. If you just solve it for y and graph it, I'll still give you full credit. My main concern is, can you graph this line? So where do we begin? Looks like we go begin up 2 units. And what is my slope? Minus 2/5. So what do? Down 2 over 5. And if you want to plot the ordered pairs, you can. If you want to just draw the arrows and put the point in, that's okay too. So down 2, that's the main part. And then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you want to label that point, you can, which that would be 5, 0. If you don't want to, that's fine too. That's your x-intercept actually. Connect them together. We don't have to check it for shading. No shading is involved. Why not? Because it's an equals, and that's it. I picked question 20 because on your exam, it's going to be slightly different. I don't want you to miss this question. This question is a question that you should have no trouble with. On your exam, the wording is slightly different. I changed a little bit about it, and I'm even going to tell you what I changed. So it says, how is the graph of an undefined slope situated on your coordinate system? Well, what do we mean by undefined? Okay, if we remember, when your slope is undefined, what type of line is that? An undefined slope is a vertical line. So all I'm wanting you to realize is that if your slope is undefined, what kind of line is it? Vertical. Now, on your exam, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to change it to horizontal. I'm going to give you a slope of 0. So if the slope was 0, this is basically a free question. If your slope is 0, then what type of line is it going to be? Horizontal. So there's basically a free question right there. And this question on your exam is going to be changed to 0. And so if your line is 0, it's a horizontal line. Now, if your slope is any other number, a positive number or a negative number, what would it be? Diagonal, right? Positive would go up from left to right and be diagonal. Negative would go down from left to right. But on your exam, I'm telling you right now, I'm changing that question to be 0. And if your slope is 0, I want you to remember that that goes along with a horizontal line. Let's take just a short 5-minute break. That way you can get up, walk around if you need to, use the restroom. We'll meet back here at 10:20, so just a little bit over a 5-minute break. We'll start our exam. Don't feel like you have to finish it by 11:30. If you need to go over a little bit, that's going to be not a problem at all. So don't feel like you've got to rush through things. So this way you can get up, walk around. If you've got your homework, I'll pick that up before we take our exam. Or before you leave today. So if you've got that done, I'll take care of that. Otherwise, you can turn it in next.